Central America is a hotspot, multiple areas of formation surrounding the region, and in the coming days we'll be going into depth into each and every one of them. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for June 13th. Well, believe it or not, the remnants of Alex are still alive. This time to the north of freaking Norway. Yep, you heard it right. It is now to the north of Norway. Not something you see every day. Never thought I'd have to place an icon up there. But the remnants of Alex still are traceable for whatever day this is in a row. It's day 13 of Atlantic hurricane season, and you can see what's going on. We have an area of interest with a 20% chance of formation surrounding the area around Nicaragua. It's going to be interesting to see what goes on because this is all part of a Central American gyre that we've been watching, and you can see why we are in the Eastern Pacific side, where below it is another area of interest with a 20% chance of formation. And then of course we also have Invest 92E, which although it may seem like the chances dropped on last night's CWB, they've actually been increasing throughout the entire time. It's a 90% chance of formation by this point. In the Western Pacific, you can see what's going on here. No development expected in the next 5 days in what has been a relatively quiet season so far ever since we had those two storms in April. Nothing in the last 2 months, and it doesn't seem that anything's going to be happening in the next 2 weeks here, so it looks like it's going to be remaining quiet here. In the North Indian Ocean, it is also similarly quiet, nothing expected in the next 5 days, and given we are past the first peak of the season, it's pretty likely that we'll be seeing nothing in the next month or so either. If anything, it's probably just going to be weak monsoonal depression at best. Here is the Atlantic satellite imagery, and you can see that there really isn't much that you can see going on here. Our frontal system exiting the Western Atlantic at this point, and then of course you can see the Central American gyre that's been in progress for the last several weeks at this point. Alex is just completely off the map because of course I decided not to go north of Norway, nor should I ever have to be going north of Norway. In the Eastern Pacific, you can see 92E as it continues to get itself better organized. You can also see what might be the beginning steps as to what will be that area. Well, probably not, given the fact that it's going to be the far Eastern Pacific where we start seeing that development. It's pretty much going to be hugging the coast, both of those areas of interest, so going to be interesting to see what ends up of those two. In the Western Pacific, you can see a disturbance that's been passing South Mariana Islands just die, which seems to be the common trend. You'll just get a cloud and then it just ends up flat out dying instantly because apparently none of the disturbances can even hold its own anymore. So we'll see what ends up of anything in the Western Pacific. If we keep getting garbage invest until something forms, it's what it's going to have to be. In the North Indian Ocean, you can see what's going on here. It's monsoonal mess going on in the Bay of Bengal as per usual. In the Arabian Sea, it's looking relatively dry for the most part, although there is a little bit of disturbance going on in the southern part of the area. Here is a zoomed in view of 92E. It's beginning to get itself more organized, hence why the chances of formation in the next 48 hours have increased to 60%. So we are starting to see those stages of tropical cyclone development starting to get that look, and it's likely to be a tropical cyclone by Tuesday or Wednesday. Here are the sea surface temperatures for the Eastern Pacific. You can see it's around 28 to 29 across a good portion of the area south of Mexico. As you head further out, however, those temperatures do decrease to 26 and 27. The Gulf of Mexico and Caribbean look around 27 to 28. Same can be said for the main development region, and same can be said for the Western Atlantic to the south of North Carolina. As you head into the subtropics, it's around 25 to 26 degrees Celsius, obviously much cooler as you head into the Arctic region. Going on over into the North Indian Ocean, it's around 29 to 30 degrees across the Arabian Sea, 28 to 29 in the Bay of Bengal, although there are some isolated pockets of 30 degrees Celsius. In the Western Pacific, it continues to warm up with more and more areas starting to see those 30 degrees Celsius isotherms. Other than that, much of the Western Pacific remains around 28 to 29. In the Southern Hemisphere, it remains around 27 to 28 across the Australian region, and then as you head into the Southwestern Indian Ocean, those temperatures do decrease to 25 and 26 degrees Celsius. As we head into the sea surface temperature anomalies, that'll be showing up in a second here, you can see our weak La Nina continuing to progress in the Eastern Pacific. The Atlantic continues to be above average in general, except for the area south of Cuba and in the Northern Atlantic. Northwestern Pacific looks to be above average still, especially north of Hawaii, and the Western Pacific looks above average as it has been. North Indian Ocean looking around average if you put those two together. June 13th, 1977, we had a Category 1 make landfall in Oman. This was known as the 1977 Oman cyclone, although this did have the official designation of 2A. This specific cyclone would be responsible for over 100 fatalities, along with 50,000 people being placed homeless, and it would be the strongest cyclone to hit Oman until Cyclone Gonu in 2007, which will be 30 years later. You can find more of our cyclone history products on the bottom bar below. Well, that brings us over to the next names. In the Atlantic, the next name here is Bonnie, followed by Colin. In the Eastern Pacific, we're looking out for Blas and Celia. And in the Central Pacific, while Toyota's slogan may be "Let's go places," we can tell you that there is no place that contains Hone. Well, moving on into the Western Pacific, the next name here is Chaba, followed by Irie. And in the North Indian Ocean, the next name here is Citrang, followed by Mandis. I know I've sounded like a broken record saying these next two names for a while now, especially given the fact it's been 2 months that this page has not changed at all. Going on over into the Australian region, the next name here is Darian. In the southwestern Indian Ocean, we only have 18 days left to get Lalama, and in the South Pacific, the next name is Holly. We'll be back for another Tropical Weather Bulletin, as always, tomorrow night.